Benchwarmers Podcast. I am Casey Coggins, joined by Alvin Hebert.
What it is, y'all?
No Andrew Lira this week. His little brother has graduated high school, and they are celebrating it all week long, apparently. So it is a two-man show tonight, and it's all NBA Finals, because we have quite an interesting series on our hands. Especially with what happened last night in one of the most dramatic games in the NBA Finals. Well, definitely the most dramatic game since Game 1 last year with the J.R. Smith play. But the Raptors were seconds away from capturing their first finals, their first title.
That was about to make history.
And
Awesome.
I mean, they were right there. It was there for the taking, and it slipped through their fingers. So we're going to discuss the series, the last night's game, things that happened in that game, and then we'll finish up with On Fire and Dire and Prophecies, like we always do. Most always do. And as I always do, Alvin, let's just start with last night, because, you know, fresh on the mind, like, right. You know, we saw how it played out. What was your biggest takeaway from last night?
My biggest takeaway is the Warriors just can't overcome those injuries, man, and they're just been so inconsistent. They can't figure out Nick Nurse's game plan, like how to prevent that defense, that one box defense.
Well, they actually went into a triangle and two. They just skipped box and one.
Because now you got KD there for the first 12 minutes, and the floor is spread wide open. But when he's gone, they go back to that suffocating defense, and like Warriors can't stop that, and that's how they Raptors make their run. And when they make the run, Warriors, they crumble.
Yeah, I mean, that I think is the big thing. Like, everybody was saying, oh, the Warriors are better with KD, or without KD. The Warriors are better without KD, because they saw, you know, Steph turning back the clock into the Steph from 3 years ago. Like, Clay had a bigger load offensively. Draymond was doing more playmaking than he had been. They were involving more guys, and there was they just put a bigger workload onto Steph and Clay, and those guys are definitely capable of taking on a bigger workload. It wasn't like they were giving a bigger workload to like, I mean, they were, but like Jordan Bell, like, he didn't have to end up becoming a 15-point a game scorer because they lost Kevin Durant. So while they're not a better team without KD, because what he's able to do, like, and it's what you touched on, like, he spreads the floor like almost nobody in the league,
because that's a body that you can't leave on defense,
and it's not even like you can close out on him, because he's a 7-foot deadly shooter. He's you know, the Dirk Nowitzki. You can't close out on Dirk. You just have to hope he misses. Like, you can't contest his shot. Like,
but the shot is always pretty, though.
Yeah, so it's and you saw it early in the game. It's like, he wasn't creating. He was a
spot-up shooter.
He was in the Harrison Barnes role last night, when he was. I'm going to stand on the wing. I'm going to let Steph and Draymond run a pick and roll. They're going to swing the ball weak side, and then I'm going to catch and shoot. And he scored 11 points in the 12 minutes he played. And I mean, a little foreshadowing, because we haven't actually said why he only played 14 or 12 minutes. And
if the world don't know about it.
So the Warriors are not a better team without Kevin Durant, and it's obvious. And so when he's out and they're playing a team of this caliber, because the games that the 4 or the 6 games that they played without him, 5.5 games, I guess, were against no small forward threat Portland. And that's just, we talked about that when that series was going on. It's just, Portland's just not a good matchup. Or the Warriors are not a good matchup for Portland because Portland's two best players play the same position that the Warriors' two best players are, and the Warriors' two best players are better overall. Like Klay Thompson is a great defender that they can put on Damian Lillard.
I mean, it showed too.
And and like there are so many things that the Warriors matched up with Portland well. Houston, I don't know why and how that happened, but it's not like, Houston has this great defense. And again, they don't have a small forward, stretch four guy. What I have talked about for years, it seems, is you can't win a title without an elite wing player, like 6'6" to 6'10", the Durants, the Dirks, the Duncans, the LeBrons. Like, I kind of want to lump Kobe into that because he was
that, you gotta put D Wade in there too.
Right. D Wade's kind of in that, but D Wade, like the difference, because the reason I have trepidation about adding those two guys to this list is because then they're technically in the same list that James Harden would be as in like position wise, because they're the 6'6" to like, I think D Wade actually might be a little shorter than 6'6", but he definitely didn't play that little. Like he didn't play smaller than 6'6". But D Wade and Kobe Bryant were monsters defensively, and James Harden is a one trick pony right now.
Well, I mean, D Wade, he has the most blocks by a shooting guard all time, I think, right now.
I believe so. Just a guard period.
Yeah. Or just as a guard,
yeah, just a guard period. Danny Green is creeping up that list though.
Yeah,
and Danny Green is not near the player that D Wade is. But even adding those guys into the list, the Kobe Bryants, the D Wades, while they're not the prototype wing player that I'm thinking of, they're also monsters on the defensive end as well as being great shooting guards and playmakers. And I was thinking about it last night, thinking about the teams and why, like, the Warriors are having issues is the finals MVP. There has been Isaiah Thomas, Chauncey Billups, and Tony Parker are the only point guards that have won a finals MVP since. I mean, Magic's technically a point guard, but he's 6'8".
Yeah.
He's a little different kind of point guard. But if we want to consider him a point guard, then we'll add him to that list. But I'm like small guards.
Small guards, yeah. We're talking about small guards.
3 guys since ever have won a finals MVP. And it's those Isaiah, Chauncey, and Tony Parker. Every other one is Jordan, Hakeem, Duncan, LeBron, Shaq. Dirk, Shaq, Kobe, D Wade, Iggy, Kawhi, Durant, like big playmaking small forwards. Without that small forward, where do the Warriors like fall back on? And you kind of saw that they didn't have that guy in this game last night, and they didn't have that guy the whole series, and they've had to try to figure things out. And I think it was more the Raptors letting off the gas than the Warriors actually taking games from them in the 2 losses. Because backtracking a little bit to game 2, that 20-0 run that the Warriors went on in the third quarter, I think it spanned the second quarter.
Oh, yeah, the last few minutes of the second quarter.
Yeah, but that was just, they didn't come out with an aggression, and Golden State went on a run, and just kind of tumbleweeds like that. And last night, it's kind of the same thing is Kawhi just goes supernova and does things that, only a few guys in the league can do by just completely taking over the game. Like, not just offensively, not just going on a 10-0 run by himself, but also just locking down the other guys on defense, getting steals, getting blocks, getting rebounds, getting offensive rebounds, doing everything on the court. And it looked like he was literally putting Canada on his back and leading them to the promised land. And then timeout.
Yeah, damn near felt it, and then it was just like, what?
And so we talked about that a little bit before we started the podcast. Is Nick Nurse in the middle of this run, crowd going crazy, fat white guy with his shirt off, spinning it around his head like a helicopter, Petey Pablo style. I think they got a turnover, and they come up, and like you can just feel that it's a little chaotic, but you know the chaos was working for them. And then they call a timeout. Crowd settles back down a little bit. Golden State gets to rally. And the Raptors are trying to like catch their breath and kind of they're trying to get ready for this last stretch of game. And a lot of people are complaining about it. And again, we talked about this before we started. I kind of liked the timeout there because I could tell that it was getting a little too hectic. The Raptors were starting to throw the ball around. They weren't getting good offensive possessions. They needed to call the timeout, compose themselves, and come back with a better game plan than they did. And they didn't come out with a good game plan.
I don't know. I felt like that timeout, it did damage to the momentum that Kawhi was carrying. Like 10 straight points all by himself. Like he was just telling them, "Give me the ball. Like I'm going to take us there."
Yeah. So
and then the Warriors call a timeout, and then it comes back, and then goes straight to commercial. I was like, "What the hell happened?" And it was just like Toronto called the timeout. I was all like, "What was the need for that?"
Yeah. I mean, I think that momentum carries through timeouts. I don't necessarily, because momentum carries through quarters.
Yeah.
And quarters are longer than a full timeout. So momentum can carry through a timeout, like no problem. Like you just, timeout. All right, this is what's working for us. But what happened was Nick Nurse didn't realize that you don't play not to lose against this team. When the other team can hit 3 threes in 40 seconds, if you're up 10, that's a 1-point game. They were up 6. Now they're down 3 once they hit 3 threes. That
snap of a finger.
Like, while the timeout, like for people who are like big momentum people, and I believe in the energy. There's an energy, not necessarily like a momentum thing, but there's like an energy that gets sapped out of players at times, and you can see it goes to the cliche, like who wants it more. Like they both want it a lot, but you can see how one team is playing systematic. We're going to just do this, slow it down, drag out the clock, playing not to lose basketball, not getting good shots, not getting open looks, turning the ball over because the defense is set. And then there's a team that's playing with their backs against the wall who is just going down there and like throwing haymakers. And those teams typically, 1, come back, and 2, a lot of times those 2 are the teams that end up winning the game because like we just talked about the momentum. Now, like all of their energy is going in a positive direction. And I think after that timeout, the Raptors came out and they said, we just need to drain this clock as much as possible and hope that we can score some points.
It's like when you see the teams play New England.
That's exactly the comparison. That's exactly the comparison I was going to make. Is it goes to Jacksonville, the Jacksonville game 2 seasons ago,
just playing safe,
where they're a man defense and they'd switch to zone. They were running the ball they were doing things effectively on offense, and then they got away from the game plan, and they just tried to drag the clock out, but the other team can score points very fast. And so when that's the case, you can't change your style in the middle of the game, because if you change your style in the middle of the game, odds are you're going to stop being as effective because you're not playing the normal way that you play. And the Raptors this whole series have been playing fast pace, have been trying to out Warriors the Warriors, and it's been working for the most part. And they got away from it in the last 3 minutes of this game, and they blew their chance at winning the title on their home floor.
Yep.
I think the most surprising part of this game was
this game or this series?
This game. This game. I wanted to touch on this a little bit before we talk about the series as a whole. But this game, the most surprising part is when KD went down and Boogie ended up having to play. Like, nobody thought he was actually going to see the floor with KD playing the full game, because you could kind of tell that he was dejected. He was ready to just be like on the bench the whole game. And not only does he come in, but he's part of the reason why the Warriors kept building leads of 10, 12. I think their lead got up to 16 or 18 points. And it looked like they were going to steal this game on the road. And while he also ended up being a little bit of a goat at the end, the middle, like the second and third quarters that Boogie played were just spectacular, like kind of like the game 2 that he had, where he was making plays, he was scoring, he was rebounding, playing good defense. It was I tweeted it out. It was just the battle that everybody thought we would see: Marc Gasol versus Boogie Cousins in the NBA Finals, because that's what it was. Gasol was carrying the Raptors in the first half, and Boogie was the catalyst for the Warriors.
Even in the fourth quarter too.
Other than like those, I don't think it was an offensive goaltend. I wouldn't have been mad if they overruled the call on the floor. I understand why they kept it there, because it looked like the ball was still on top of the rim.
From what angle you saw it at, though.
But
because there was other angles where you saw it looked like it was off it. And then another one was showing you like, I don't know, that looks like it's above it.
No, there was the one that's above the rim angle shows like there's a sliver of the ball that's like on top of the rim. And to me, I consider that out of the cylinder, because 90% of that ball is outside of the rim. So again, like, I'm not mad that they didn't overturn it, but I wouldn't have been mad if they did. Like, I understand they just confirmed the call. They were like, it's not enough to overturn. So there's that one. The goaltend on Lowry, like, he was going to make the layup anyways. Like, and that happens all the time. People are like, oh, he got called for 2 goaltendings on back-to-back plays. Like, the goaltend wasn't the issue. The getting blown by Kyle Lowry was the issue there. And then the moving screen, which I was calling for the moving screen because I saw a moving screen. Everybody saw a moving screen. And the only people that are bringing that up as an issue are because, like, they could make that call on every single play.
Yeah, for anybody.
It's like, and then, but to make it in that situation with 15 seconds left in a 1-point game, to make that call then, that's when it gets a little weird. So it's like, I don't really even blame Boogie for that. Like, he was doing something that's done 4,000 times in a regular season game, 4,000 times in a playoff game. And it might get called once or twice.
Yeah, you can see Ibaka doing it all series.
It wasn't egregious. I mean, it was a moving screen. He moved his ass into, I think it was Lowry or Van Vliet.
Van Vliet, I think.
And knocked him out of bounds right in front of a ref. Like, yeah, like I think
that was a little bit of a sell too, though.
It was something that could have been called an offensive foul. And again, with the offensive goaltending, I'm not mad that they called it. I wouldn't have been mad if they didn't. I mean, I probably would have been a little mad that they didn't in that time, because I'm not rooting for the Warriors. So I did want to see the Warriors lose last night. But again, like, people were saying, oh, Boogie almost cost him the series there.
You could come up with other stuff too, like the Steph Curry backcourt. Two of them.
The stupid pass to Draymond. Like, why are you even passing it right there? Like, there was no reason. There was a lot of bonehead plays on both teams. And they were like playing hot potato with the victory.
Like, do you want it? No, you can have it.
So, let's talk a little bit about the actual series, though. Like, yeah, we've kind of touched on it. We're at the point where we know that it's 3-2 Toronto going to Oracle, last game in Oracle Stadium ever. 4-game 6 NBA Finals, first game after losing Durant for good, first game after losing Looney for good. What have you, like, I know we've kind of talked about how the Warriors just don't seem to have any answers in the series. They just can't figure out what to do with the Raptors. Have there been any signs, though, that you can fall back on to think that the Warriors can win not just Game 6, but Game 7? Like, are there, in the first 5 games, are there any signs other than pulling out 2 wins that shows you that they might actually be able to do this?
I mean, of course there's one. You got to go back to what you did in Game 2. And that's, you had everybody contributing. Like, Draymond Green, he's had, like, okay games. But if you look at his stats, you're like, oh, wow, he did some stuff. But it's like, it's not like how it felt when they played against Portland, where you could, like, feel like he just, like, dominated and took over, like, the defense and offense too, because they was running the offense through him, and that's how he was generally averaging a triple-double.
Yeah, they were running against Portland and against Houston. They were running that little high side pick and roll with Steph and Draymond.
Yeah.
And you're kind of forced to try to trap Steph.
And then you got the cutter going in, so it's either they pull up for a 3 or they shoot it to you and you got an easy layup.
Big difference, though. The Raptors are the second best defense in the league. Like, if not the best. I know statistically the Milwaukee was the best defense in the league, but when you have former player or defensive player of the year Kawhi, former defensive player of the year Marc Gasol, close to being defensive player of the year Serge Ibaka.
He led the league in blocks for like almost like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Kyle Lowry, who's a very good defender. Danny Green, who was all defense last year.
Van Vliet, also a good defender.
Yeah, like
Siakam,
who is I'm going to eventually on the podcast do my whole praising of that guy and how good I think he's going to end up being. Because there's another guy in the league that has kind of taken the same trajectory that he had. And that guy's going to win the MVP this year. So I'm going to make that comparison at some point in the future. But yeah, like Toronto's defense is nuts. Just absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, the Warriors are known for playing good defense too. They're always in like the top of the league in defense as well for as much points that they score. But the energy is just different. Like, you see the energy on the Raptors side and then you see the energy on the Warriors side. It's complete difference. It's night and day.
The big difference is outside of Clay, Iggy, and Draymond right now, who's your good defender?
Nobody. Like,
that's the difference.
Livingston should not be playing. Jordan Bell should not be playing. They look like it's it's over for them and stuff like that.
Jordan Bell's doing a lot of the same things that Pascal Siakam is doing, and I think Siakam's kind of getting a pass for it. But if you go back and watch some of these games in this series, when Steph gets going, like let's use Game 3 as the example because he scored his career high. A lot of times, what you see is Pascal Siakam falling asleep on the help defense of Steph. Where Steph, he likes to pass the ball up top to Draymond, and he does his little U cut that he cuts down to the baseline, comes around the screen.
Yeah, that ring around the rosy.
That when he comes around that screen and it's Pascal Siakam, Siakam's not paying attention because he thinks he's away from the play, and so he's kind of just standing flat-footed, and all of a sudden Steph is coming around the screen. Van Vliet's trying to stay with him, and he's like, hey, switch, help, whatever their key is, and Siakam doesn't move, and it creates openings for Steph. And play after play, he's done that. Jordan Bell, same way. Jordan Bell, is great of an athlete as he is, and
he's been trash.
He's been
defense.
He's practically unplayable other than his activity level. He's very active. He can set good screens. He can get rebounds, but as far as the IQ that they need,
oh yeah, because there's plays where I've seen him. I'm just like, what were you thinking?
He gave up. He just completely he forgot that he needed to try to rebound, and Serge Ibaka comes running down the paint for put back dunk.
Yeah, I'm just and then he looks around like he's lost. I'm like, you are lost. Go to the bench. Why are you in the game?
That's the big thing about their defense is the Warriors. Yeah, they've hung their hat on defense, but they had Iggy's still elite defender. Clay and Draymond, elite defenders. Steph is good at getting into the passing lane, but they don't. Outside of that, Bogut, unplayable. Jordan Bell, unplayable. Kevon Looney, hurt. If he was healthy, if he was healthy,
you saw how he was playing when he's not healthy, that's just guts.
Yeah, but when he was healthy, the way he was playing, he looked like he was about to get a 4-year, $80 million contract.
That was a pay raise coming.
Yeah, he looked incredible, and he's playing with his arm pretty much in a sling out there. I don't know what's going on with the abdomens and the legs, but he looks like he's in a full body cast. Yeah. he's and so now that he's gone, you're gonna have to rely on Boogie and
Repko.
Yeah, Livingston. Quinn Cook's not a defender, and he hasn't been shooting well either.
He's been missing a lot of wide open shots.
He hasn't been very good, and so it's that's kind of why I asked is it seems like the 2 games that the Warriors have won have been a little bit fluky. Have been a little they had no business actually winning these games. In that, if you would have said before the series started that this would be where we're sitting, that the Warriors seem to be completely outclassed at almost every level, but yet they're going to a game 6, and you don't know how it's even at a game 6. You would be like, there's no fucking way. Did the entire team blow up?
Yeah, the Raptors are shooting very well from the 3-point line.
Not last night. They were garbage.
But they still got key 3-point shots
Kawhi and Van Vliet were the 3-point shoot. Well, I don't even think Kawhi shot very well from it, but I think he ended up hitting 3. Van Vliet hit 2, and Gasol hit 2, but they only had 8 as a team.
Yeah, it was one of those. Kawhi put up some good numbers, but his shooting percentage was pretty crappy.
Yeah, he didn't have a great first 3 quarters.
Yeah.
The 4th quarter he was incredible with. I wanted to see. So yeah, Kawhi made 2, Gasol made 2, Lowry made 1, Van Vliet made 3. They were 8 for 32. Siakam was garbage. He was terrible last night.
Yeah.
He was very bad.
That's one thing about him. He's inconsistent. He'll have a game where he blows up, and then he has one of these games where he's just missing wide open shots.
Well, and he's missing wide open shots, but he's not a shooter. Like you don't need him to hit 2 or 3 threes in a game. What you need him to do is do what he tried doing, and when they get into transition, it's part of the reason why I'm going to do my whole comparison to Giannis with him. Like, he's a freak of nature, lengthwise, speed-wise, athletically, that he can take 2 steps from the half court pretty much and get to the rim. And he's missing layups. He's missing little bunnies. He's missing a lot of these things that was the reason he scored as many points as he did in game 1. Like, he can get to the rim pretty much at will. He just has to finish. And he ended up 6 of 15 last night. And he probably could have had a 28-point game last night.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he was taking anything, like, he didn't take many difficult attempts. And for a guy that size, even when, like, he's really contested at the rim, like, he has the ability to get his arm to a position where he can get a clean layup off. He just has to hit that layup. And so, again, it goes to the Raptors have really lost the 2 games more than the Warriors have won it, I think. But to answer the question I asked you about, is there anything that you've seen from the Warriors that gives you a hope, a glimmer of hope, and that they can still win these next 2 games? And here it is. Here's the one thing. I trust Iguodala to come out in one of these games and be making threes, be making plays. Like, it would not surprise me at all if these next 2 games he averages like 18 to 20 points a game. He hasn't really been great offensively all series. Like, they left him butt ass naked from the 3-point line in game 2.
Him and Draymond.
They were just like, look, you make this? Cool. We'll go to Oracle tied 1-1. We're fine with that. Go ahead. Shoot it. I dare you. And he made it. Other than that, he's been tremendous defensively. Defense hasn't been the issue with him. Offensively, he has not been there. He shot like a 15-footer last night from the baseline that went like 10 feet over the rim. It was terrible. It was a horrible shot. He hasn't played well offensively yet this series. And he's the one guy that I think can take some pressure off of Steph and Clay offensively. Like, Quinn Cook needs to be better offensively too, because he's really their only other 3-point shooter. But
well, Jerebko also, but he hasn't been shooting well either.
If you're gonna say Jerebko needs to play better, you're pretty much saying it's a lost cause. Like, at least I've seen Iguodala do things in the playoffs, and he has it in him. We've seen him make time and time again big plays, big shots, come up big in prime time games, back against the wall games. And like, it wouldn't surprise me to see Steph come out, get 35 points, Clay come out, get 35 points, Draymond get his 12 to 15, and then Iguodala get 18. And right there, 4 guys has you at 100 points. So, like, that would not surprise me at all to see in this game. But I think the only way to get to that is Iguodala has got to be better. And while I asked you, what have you seen It's what you haven't seen yet that I think is the glimmer of hope, because you know that there's that spark there still that can spark the flame that is the Golden State Warriors phoenix of an offense.
Yeah, I mean, you can always go back to that because honestly, like their offense has not had that game where they just like lighten it up from everywhere and like Oracle Arena is just going fucking bananas. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
they have not had that one like you. So you could always go back to that. Like, but I think that just speaks to the Raptors' game plan. Like, straight up taking them out of their own game.
What, minus what we talked about with Game 5, what have you thought about Nick Nurse?
I don't know. He's a little bit bipolar. Like he'll have some timeouts where it's just like he managed his timeouts well, and they came out of the timeouts and like they were like the energy was still there. You know what I'm saying? Like the game plan was good out of those timeouts. And then he has timeouts like from Game 5. Like I said, I don't like that timeout. And then you could go to like Game 2 and maybe Game 3 where like he has some questionable like plays coming out of timeouts, and it was just like I thought you were just like offensive like genius.
Yeah.
People was talking about, and I'm just like I don't see it. It's just like very generic.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the adjustments that he's made.
I feel like his defensive adjustments has been outshining anything he does on offense.
Yeah, what he is. I mean, some of his offensive adjustments have been incredible too, but yeah, like getting like understanding what the Warriors are doing, and then being like, okay, well, Game 2, Boogie went off by being a playmaker at the high post. Well, Game 3 comes out, they tried to do something similar, and he's like, no, that's not going to work on me again. And he just completely shut it down and made Boogie pretty much unplayable in Game 3 and 4. But yeah, I mean, I've been really, really impressed with what he's done so far in this series. And kind of, I mean, on the same way, like Steve Kerr, he's, I think I heard it on the Bill Simmons podcast this morning. In the first, when they they just talked about what he was doing, but when they were explaining, like, you know, he's kind of been just sticking with what got him here. And the first thing that popped into my head is he's kind of like being Popovich right now. Like, he's like, you know, I'm not going to, like, we made it to the NBA Finals. We've won 3 titles. We've won all these games with this core group over this many years, doing this one thing or these couple things. We're just going to keep doing this because eventually, like, it's the straw breaks the camel's back. Like, eventually it'll break our way. And I don't think that's the way that he needs to take it with this series, especially with all the injuries that he's had. Especially that, like, the kind of team that they're playing. But he seems Nick Nurse is making all the right tweaks, and Steve Kerr isn't making any. And unless his hand is forced, like his hand was forced with the KD injury yesterday, and so he had to make an adjustment. But the rest,
and he didn't have Looney either after that.
Yeah, the rest of the series, like he's pretty much rolled the ball out and hoped for the best. So before we move on to the KD injury, because I did want to touch on that. What's your prediction for the rest of the series?
I think it does go to a Game 7, but I think the Warriors end up winning this.
You think they're gonna?
I mean, not the Warriors. I mean the Raptors. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think the Raptors win it at home. I
think the Raptors are actually going to win it on the road. I think the chips are stacked too heavily against the Warriors right now. Like, yeah, I know. Last game in Oracle, Steph and Clay and Draymond, like kind of like this big push, and they're still explosive. But nothing in the series has given me any like optimism for them. And the pressure valve on Toronto got released in game 5. Like, first time in the NBA Finals, an entire nation on their back, having a chance to clinch the title at home. Like, that is incredible pressure. That is like, not only like do the players know that if they win this game, they win the title? Like, that's one thing. But also the fans know that if you win this game, you win the title. And so, like, every dribble you make, every pass, like, you throw, any miss, any make, like, whatever it is, like, it's ramped up so much by the fans, by their gas, by their breath, by their yelling, by their, like, chants. Everything was just so about winning that game to win a title on the home floor that now I think they kind of like playing on the road with the type of team they are probably is going to be better for them than trying to win it on their home floor, because they don't have this pressure and this history and any of this stuff. Like, it's all new ground for Toronto and Canada in the finals. Like, I just think that there hasn't been anything that Golden State has really done that makes me think that they're going to be able to win 2 in a row. But it's also that they haven't really done anything to make me think that they're going to be able to come back from all of these injuries and be able to hold off this team who they just almost like who just blew that chance at winning the title. And so I think that plays a lot into the Raptors' hands as far as going into game 6. So that's I think the Raptors close it out, and you think the Raptors close it out in 7 at home.
Yeah.
All right, and then I'll ask Andrew what he thinks, even though he doesn't care. So the KD injury, it has not been officially diagnosed, but odds are it's a torn Achilles. They were doing a really good job about not having him be a playmaker last night. They said he was only going to play short bursts. They play him the first 6 minutes, give him a couple minutes rest, and then put him back in? No. Like, play him the first 6 minutes of every quarter, or play him the first 6 minutes of the first, and play him the last 6 minutes of the second, play him the first 6 minutes of the third, and play him the last 6 minutes of the fourth. Like, he's coming back from an injury to a calf, allegedly, that had him held out for this long. Like, his body isn't going to be at full strength. It's not going to be game ready. Like, you can't just go and fully exert. It's the reason why we see a lot more injuries in the NFL. Like, they're not exerting themselves as much during the week and at practice. So when it's game time and now it's like, okay, we have to go full speed for an entire game, their muscles just are not ready to withstand all of that.
Yeah.
And I think that had a lot to do with what happened. And it's not weird to me that he did it on the first time that he really had the ball in his hands trying to make a play. Like, is that odd to you at all? Like, are you surprised that it happened that way?
Oh, no, of course not. Like, eventually he was going to get away from just being a stand-up in the corner spot-up shooter. And especially, like, there's
which was working doing that.
Yeah. And they had times where, like, he had the ball, but he wasn't trying to be no playmaker with it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, he wasn't trying to go one-on-one. It was, he caught it. If he had, like, there's one play, like, in particular that I'm thinking about where Clay is running to the corner. Kawhi's closing out on Kevin on KD. KD catches the ball. He kind of hesitates a little bit. Kawhi gets a little flat-footed because, Clay's about to be wide open in the corner, so he has to kind of play in between the guys. KD doesn't do anything other than just stand there, kind of do this little like shoulder roll, and then shoots and makes it. Like, he doesn't dribble. He's not trying to like create off of, like he just, and that's what he was doing. And then he dribbled the ball, and the rest is history now. But I didn't want to really hash over his injury and like what it meant to the game, what it meant to anything like that. What I wanted to bring up is the future about this injury, because this entire year it's pretty much been KD's going to leave at the end of this year. They're going to win 3 straight. He's going to probably win his 3rd straight Finals MVP. He's going to have his rings, his legacy as a champion. Now he's going to go allegedly to the Knicks and try to make his own team there and become his own, like, do it on his own, as Kyrie would say. But I feel like this injury puts that in jeopardy. What? Just give me your thoughts on it, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
I do feel like you are going to have those teams that are going to be skeptical and like pull out, but I think like the major players.
I don't think anybody's going to pull out. See, that's the thing, is I don't think anybody's going to say, you got hurt, we're not going to give you the full deal that we were going to, because I think that is still going to happen. The Knicks are still going to try to get him to sign. The issue though is, I don't know who else. Like, I'm thinking more as a landscape. Why would Anthony Davis want to go to the Knicks, or why would Kyrie want to go to the Knicks when they were probably going to go there because KD was going to go there? But if KD goes there, he's going to be sitting out the entire season because of this injury. So, like, are the Knicks going to be able to get a Kyrie and try to like bank it onto, hey, we might not have him this year, but we can get you now, give you the contract, get you in the city, get him in the city. Y'all can be like hanging out all the time. You just won't be playing on the, like, that's really the heart of my thought process. Is Kevin Durant is 30. He'll be 31. Tore his Achilles. I mean, most likely we'll find out. The MRI was supposed to be today. It definitely looked like one. Yeah. And
just like the last time.
Yeah. and he's missing a full year. He'll get healthy. He's not in the same boat that Kobe was when he tore his Achilles, but he is probably going to miss all of next year. And what team, what player will say, we'll go ahead and sign you, or what player is going to say, I'll sign with you, knowing that KD's not going to play all year? Like, that's where it gets into the muddy water, I think.
I don't know. I think that only like works if KD like signs first, and then you're like, well, since he's there, he's like, it'll have to be like a 3-year, 4-year deal that he signs. And you're like, all right, well, this first year is washed, but I know I got you for the next 3.
Yeah, it'll kind of go into this like legal tampering because if KD signs first, that's probably because he knows somebody else is going to sign there, and like there's like an agreement. But like if Kyrie or like Davis gets traded and signs, or like whatever free agent is trying to, Kemba Walker, if they sign first, they probably know that KD's also going to sign there, and that they're like, it just seems that that's probably going to be how it has to be. That they're going to have to know, okay, he's going to sign here. I'll play the year without him, and then we'll have a team next year, and we'll just, build, either get a good draft pick to get another asset, another trade piece, something like that. It's the reason why I ask is because it's so interesting to me, because now my gut, because of this, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he just says, like, if he tries to do another 1-1 with the Warriors, and he tries, like, he doesn't sign a big contract, he signs a 1-1 with another team where it's like, look, I'm going to be out all year. He might not even fucking sign a contract. like
I'm just gonna be retired for 1 year.
I'm just going to, it's not like I'm going to be playing right now. Like, I'm just going to stay like a free agent, see how the landscape shapes up, and then next year when Anthony Davis is a free agent, I'll sign my deal then. Like, I just feel like there's nothing that's not in play. Like, I feel like anything, like, as in the words of Kevin Garnett, anything is possible. And I wouldn't have said that 48 hours ago. I wouldn't have said that 24 hours ago or 26 hours ago, however long it was before the game started, before the injury happened. Like, I would have told you he's going to be leaving Golden State. I actually kind of thought he would end up with the Clippers and not in New York. Because I also think that the Clippers have a good chance at landing either Kawhi or Anthony Davis. And so that's where my gut was telling me is he's gone. And now I'm like, I don't fucking know.
Now you're like, you don't fucking know.
I don't fucking know what he's going to do. Because,
I never know
because it's not only that he's injured and he's going to have to sign like a 1-1 or like whatever he does, but it's also that because he's injured, like, the end of this Warrior season is going to also play a big part into this, because if they end up losing in the finals without him, and like partly because they didn't have him,
we need you to stay.
Like, they're going to say, look, we want you back, and I think they all actually enjoy each other, but the reason why I thought he was going to leave is because validation. Like he needs the credit. Like, if he goes to New York and leads them to just an NBA Finals, he's going to be labeled a god. Like, he doesn't even need to win a title in New York. He needs to sign there, because they haven't really gotten this kind of player ever in free agency. The best players this millennium that they've been able to have is Marbury and Carmelo and Amari.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Jeremy Lin?
No.
The Lin Sanity?
They had 2 weeks of a good player. And so it's such a fascinating, like, storyline and subplot to an already fascinating finals with storylines and subplots. It's just well, I didn't like to see him get hurt, and like, I don't root for injuries. I mean, I jokingly root for injuries.
Raptor fans do.
I don't think they root for injuries. But we're gonna get to that in a minute. But like, it's amazing to me that this injury really throws a monkey wrench into everything in the NBA. And it's why it's kind of the dominating storyline of the finals right now. It's because not only does it affect the finals, but it affects the offseason in its entirety. So do you have any other words on the Kevin Durant injury that you would like to get off your chest?
Nah, man, just a speedy recovery, man.
So let's move on to On Fire and Dire and Prophecies, and wrap up the week. I'll go first and lead off with my On Fire is Rafael Nadal, title number 12 at Roland Garros, winning yet another French Open. His career record there is something like 10,002. He has lost 2 matches like that he's on at this tournament since 2005. He won his first one in 2005. He's won it every year other than the 2 times he lost and 1 year he was injured. He has more titles at one Grand Slam tournament than everybody but Federer, Djokovic, and Sampras have total. Like, he has more at just this one than almost everybody in tennis history has in their career at all 4. He tied a couple guys at 12 overall, but he has 12 titles at the French Open. These other guys had 12 titles combined at the 4 total. Like, it's absolutely absurd what he's doing on clay. He's labeled the king of clay for a reason. He's been injured a lot over the last year, so it was coming back from that, beating everybody down. He beat Federer in straight sets. He barely lost 1 set in the final to probably the second best clay player in the world. Like, he barely lost 1 set to the second best clay player in the world. Other than that, he won 6-3, 6-1, 6-1 in the other 3 sets. He's a monster.
It's just complete dominance.
Yeah, he's the Celtics in the 60s. He's the Cowboys and the Bulls of the 90s. He's the Celtics and the Lakers of the 80s. Like, you just...
in one little body.
He's like 6'2", 220. I don't know what the measurements are. But yeah, he's just insane at this tournament. So he's also my favorite tennis player, so I had to give him some love. Who's on fire for you, Alvin?
Oh, my on fire. This is a little shade to my cousin who doesn't watch women's sports, but the U.S. women's national team.
Not watching women's
banging
sports.
That ass.
Smacking that ass, smacking that ass.
Straight up ass whooping 13-0 against Thailand in the World Cup.
Yeah. Like. When I got that notification, I thought it was an error. I thought they missed type 3. But Alex Morgan, 5 goals.
It was just ridiculous.
I mean, it definitely shows the discrepancy of talent between Thailand and the U.S. in women's soccer. And you could also see on the pitch the size difference just in general. I mean, the average, I think, American woman is like 5'5", 5'6", and the average Thai woman is probably around like 4'11".
Yeah.
so and that's just the average. That's considering like all the best pro athletes and all the non-pro athletes. Like, this is American pro athlete women. Like, their average is probably closer to 5'9" than anything. But yeah, it was a classic smackdown on display. Follow up. Who's in dire?
My and Dyer, unfortunately.
Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada, you are so not nice.
Sorry.
Oh, man, I didn't like that at all. The Raptors fans cheering and clapping when they found out that KD was hurt. Like, I just felt so bad at that point right there. Especially, like, seeing the Raptor players telling them, like, nah, don't do that. Like,
yeah, I have a hard time thinking that they were actually cheering the injury more than they were cheering the situation. Like I talked about, they haven't had a team this close to. They haven't had a team in the NBA Finals. They hadn't been this close to a title. They are just completely amped up on like Molson, I think that's the beer name, like in Tim Hortons, and there's so much energy in that building. And it also happened like he fell down, there was a steal, like they were cheering the steal, and I know it kind of went on longer where the players, like you said, had to like, hey, calm down, the guy's hurt. But there are numerous times in sporting events that I've seen a player get hurt, fans not really paying attention to the fact that he's like still on the ground and cheering like what else is going on around them, because that's just the nature. And then when you realize, oh shit, this guy's actually hurt, like this is serious, he's getting helped off the floor, like the players were part of the reason why they calmed down. But I think they would have also calmed down when they actually realized what was going on. The players had to calm them down because the players were on the court. They saw what was going on. They knew that it was serious. I don't think the fans, especially the fans in the upper deck, like just as a whole, like you're a fan, the section next to you is cheering, so you're going to cheer. Like that's just, I go to a lot of sporting events, and that is a lot of times how it works is you're cheering because other people are cheering, and you might not actually know what exactly is going on down on the court. Yes, I agree with you. It's bad luck. But I also want to say I'm not surprised that it seems like they were cheering the injury.
Like I understand like I could see that point of view. Like I definitely can understand that because he like in the moment and your team just got a basket, you know what I'm saying, a nice dunk by Powell and all that. But playing the clip and like watching him like replay it over and over on ESPN, like there's a brief moment where you could tell like the celebration for the dunk stopped and everybody was like a little bit like hush hush, and then they see that Kevin Durant had to need help to get up, and then you just hear like a group of like Raptor fans just like cheering loud as fuck for that. I was just like, nah, that's not it.
Yeah, see, and it's not like the whole arena.
Yeah, it wasn't the whole
erupting.
Arena. No, yeah, it was just that group of fans that went up and like cheered for it.
And there's always that group of fans. There's always that.
Yeah, there's always is. Yeah. I mean, Raider fans, come on.
I mean, we can go down a huge list of fans that
the Philadelphia Eagle fans when Michael Irvin got that concussion.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and we could go down the line of football fans, basketball fans, baseball fans that would boo when another player or would cheer when another player gets hurt and all that stuff. But there's always that group of dicks in the stands. So yeah, again, like I said, it's not a good look, but I also don't think that like the Raptors fans in entirety were like, woo, thank God, no. Kevin Durant's hurt.
Oh no, I don't want to mean it as entirety.
Yeah. So Mayan Dyer, as I kind of touched on it a little earlier, Mayan Dyer's the New York Knicks because I used the phrase earlier. A monkey wrench just got thrown into your entire offseason plans.
Another one after we just cleared out the first one.
They went, a few weeks ago, they were like, we're gonna get Zion, KD, and Kyrie, and now they might get Kemba Walker. And end of list. That's like, Kemba's great. Like, don't get me wrong, but
hometown kid.
they things have gone downhill very fast for the Knicks. And I mean, there's still the chance that they have a good off season, but it's tough to see like them, like it's tough to see the Pelicans trade Anthony Davis there, because like it's just, I think for the Pelicans, they're like, we don't need to trade Anthony Davis at all. We'll just play him this whole year with Zion. Let him see how it, like, it just seems like the Knicks are, again, their all-season plan is foiled. They're like the villain in Scooby-Doo. And every time it's James Dolan under that mask. So that's why they're in dire for me. So now Prophesies, we'll wrap up the week on these. What do you got for us?
I say Game 6. The Splash Bros score 70 points. Draymond Green puts up a triple-dub.
I mean, I didn't have the triple-dub, but I said that, both of them scoring 35 earlier.
Yeah.
So, kind of the reason why you have it going 7, I take it.
Yes.
So, my prophecy, as I always do, go a little off the radar with my stuff. The Stanley Cup final is in Game 7. The Boston Bruins and St. Louis Blues.
I'm like Andrew on that when it comes to him in the NBA finals. What?
Man, playoff hockey's fun. It's hard to follow the regular season because it coincides with the NBA season so much. But when it comes to the playoffs, there's a lot more there's more spaced out games, and I can find myself watching some playoff hockey. And I have the St. Louis Blues winning their first ever title in Game 7 on the road in Boston.
Boston, back at it again.
So, yeah, I could have gone U.S. Open here because I typically go golf or tennis when there's a major. But I really don't have a good pulse right now for this U.S. Open because I think the field is so, I mean, not to use the same word, open. It really is. There's 10 to 15 guys who could win it because it's just where the state of the PGA is. There's a lot of good guys. There's a lot of like high level talent, major winning talent that's out there. And then you have big game hunter Brooks Koepka kind of running the majors right now. So it'll be interesting to watch that going on this weekend. But I mean, it was my prophecy a few weeks ago that I had Tiger missing the cut. I do see him making the cut this week. So I'll throw that out there for you. And that wraps up this week of the Benchwarmers podcast. Anything else that you need to get off your chest about the NBA Finals?
No.
All right, cool. Well, I'm Casey Coggins, and tonight I'm joined by just Alvin Hebert.
We'll be back at it again.
Until next time.
We are